All right. Good morning, members. We have a quorum and we've reached the appointed hour. The meeting is now called to order. Agenda item number 1, information papers issued since the last meeting. There are 5 of them and the details are on the agenda. So please take note of these papers. If you don't have any comments, item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting, paper the date of next meeting is the 14th of January 2013 from 4:30 to 6:30. You may refer to paper CB4 207-1213. There are several items proposed by the administration. First, development of the International Culinary College. The administration will consult members on the proposal by the VTC to develop the International Culinary College in Pak Fu Lam. The proposal will be made to the PWSC on the 6th of March. The second item the administration has proposed is self-financing tertiary education or post-secondary education. The administration will brief members on the regulatory matters and of the self-financing post-secondary colleges, and also the prospect of graduates of self-financing post-secondary courses. The third item proposed by the administration is a review on post-secondary ordinance CAP 320, post-secondary education ordinance CAP 320, and post-secondary education regulation 320A. Members will be consulted on the review of post-secondary education framework, of course, the legislative framework. Mr. Chang, Fernando Chang, I have no objection to the discussion items, but with regard to self-financing post-secondary education, I think we should conduct a hearing. Recently, we have encountered a number of incidents. We've seen over-admission, say, in the university in which I work, and also my alma mater. Mr. Chairman, your alma mater also has some problems in your alma mater and also in the university where I teach. You have been a board member for many years. I believe you've seen many problems. I think we should listen to the views of various groups, including student groups, with regard to post-secondary education. Mr. Chen Kalok. Yes, I agree with Mr. Fernando Chang on the proposal to conduct a hearing. I hope the chairman will discuss the funding for public policy researches. The proposal was made by the CPU to bring the funding back from the RGC to the CPU, and the decision for granting the fund will be made by the CPU instead of the RGC. Those working in the tertiary education institutions are very concerned about it, and we really want to look into the problem. Ms. Yip. Well, I have no objection to the proposed items, but I notice that there is an issue in relation to the allocation of secondary school places. Now, we've noticed that there is a reduction in the number of places in the secondary schools, and I hope that the matter can be followed up. Does any other member wish to speak? Dr. Fernando Chang. Well, in other words, in that case, we can't discuss all these items because self-financing education, post-secondary education should be a separate item for a discussion for the whole meeting. I think for the framework, the regulatory framework for post-secondary education, the administration, I believe, wants to provide more room for the development of self-financing post-secondary education. I think we should have a separate meeting for that, including the public hearing. Does any member wish to speak further? If not, then let me conclude. I think we all agree that at the next meeting on the 14th of January, we'll discuss the development of the International Culinary College, self-financing post-secondary education, and also post-secondary education ordinance, the review of that. As for the public hearing on post-secondary education, I think we should listen to more views, and there are benefits to do so. The question is just whether we have any time slot. If you don't oppose if you don't object to my proposal, then I will talk to the vice chairman and then the secretary on how to organize a public hearing and how big the public hearing should be. As for dealing with the decline in secondary school population, secondary student population, and the cutting of number of classes, well, I have received the report, but have not looked into the detail. Now, I think the matter can be raised under AOB, and then we will discuss the way forward. If I missed anything, oh yes, Mr. Chen Siu, I think the CPU is not the counterpart of the education panel. Now, your principle of academic freedom is too broad and can apply to many panels. It may be more suitable to raise it at the CA panel because CA panel is the counterparty of the CPU. But this is, this is related to education. Let's be more specific. People may lose their jobs. People in the university may lose their jobs. As said by Fernando Cheung, we have our plate full for the next meeting. Perhaps after the meeting, I'll talk to Mr. Chen to see if we can make the arrangement. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you understand that it is related to education, and I know the division of labor among the panels. Yes, we'll try to sort out the matter after the meeting. Yes, there's one more thing. The panel will have a special meeting in January to listen to the briefing of the Secretary on Education on matters in relation to the policy address. The date will be announced later. Item 3, shall we invite the officials into the room first? Right. Today we have Mr. Kevin Young, Mrs. Michelle Wong for coming. Thank you very much for coming to discuss the matter with us. This is a legislative proposal. The administration proposes to amend the education ordinance so as to protect the benefit of the GSPF and also the SSPF to prevent the benefits of the contributors from being vested into a trustee in bankruptcy. The proposed amendment is to protect the contributors of the GSPF and SSPF from prevent the benefits of these contributors from being vested in trustee in bankruptcy in the case of bankruptcy. This is to protect their interests accumulated over the retirement. And in 2008, in the bankruptcy case concerning a subsidized school, the Court of First Instance ruled that the Education Ordinance did not prevent the benefits under the SSPF from vesting in the trustee in bankruptcy by virtue of Section 58(1) of the Bankruptcy Ordinance. The judge further recommended that serious consideration be given to amend the law to extend protection to retirement benefits generally in the event of bankruptcy. We therefore proposes to amend the rules of the two provident funds and also the relevant retirement laws, such as the also the MPFO. Under such circumstances, the contributors' interests are protected and will not be vested to the trustee in bankruptcy. Now, the GSPF and SSPF are mandatory provident funds. In fact, they are similar to the MPF, and they are also the benefits are also paid out by in a lump sum. We therefore proposes to change the protection scope, extend the protection scope of the GSPF and SSPF. In other words, the benefits of the GSPF and SSPF contributors will not be regarded as will be excluded as the funds of the bankrupt, and therefore excluded from the property of the bankrupt, and therefore will be protected. Now, the bankrupt has yet to embark on his or her appeal, and the law, or the amendment itself, is not retrospective. We therefore propose to pass a law, the amendment, to extend protection to the contributors. And in fact, the two boards of the provident funds support the proposal, and we urge members to pass this amendment bill. We intend to put the bill before members at the second half of next year. We're happy to take questions. The floor is open to members who would like to ask questions. A show of hands, please.
Vice Chairman, anyone else? Okay, 3 people together. You have more time each, 4 minutes each. Leung Kwok-hong first. Chairman, I totally support this amendment because the victim was my mentor. He had worked so hard his entire life. What's unfair is that civil servants are entitled to the immunity, and yet teachers were not. This is a normal situation and should be rectified. And the case lost is appeal. I know this is not the occasion for discussing private matters, but to avoid the same thing from happening, we need to move ahead immediately with the amendment. So I think we should expedite the work. I will support your amendment. Why do I say this? Because this reflects an issue with the bureaucracy. I didn't mean to be offensive, but I think bureaucrats or officials, they are not aware that people or your counterparts have had similar contributions like you. So we need to take immediate action. I'm very pleased with this proposal. I don't know whether my mentor had or is seeing the live broadcast today. Someone who had taught his entire life and saw that a civil servant next door whose pension funds were protected in the case of bankruptcy, and yet in his case he was not protected. So, Under Secretary, any response? Well, apart from saying thanks, I think I can only say thanks to your support. We do know that there is this issue of discrepancy, and the case highlighted the problem. So we'll move ahead with the amendment as soon as we can. We are doing the drafting now, and with member support, we will propose the amendment as soon as possible. Vice Chairman? Chairman, I think the Hong Kong Professional Teachers Union has long been following up on this case. Many affected teachers have sought help from us in the past, including my predecessor. Legislator had asked for an amendment of the ordinance. So now the time has come for the amendment. We very much welcome it, and we think that it is something that we should do. I'd just like to ask a simple question. Once the law is amended, what about the retrospective period? I think there have been some cases for which appeals or legal proceedings are going on. So do you think what implications this amendment would have for those cases? Can you share with us your views? Under Secretary, any retrospective period? Yes. For the law, in principle, all laws will not have any retrospective periods. But what we are going to do is once the amended law takes effect, all bankruptcy cases in which teachers are involved will be and the teachers involved will be protected. That is, should there be bankruptcy, the teachers' contributions would not be affected in that the money is given to the trustee. But for cases that occur before the law went into effect, the victims of bankruptcy actually had already had the benefits accrued in the pensions. So the amended law can only protect future cases of bankruptcy. So is that are we talking about when the case happened or when the legal proceedings happened? My understanding is that we look at when the bankruptcy order was decreed. But for the detail like this, I need to go back and ask. Any supplement from the Deputy Secretary? Thank you, Chairman. I think the Undersecretary's understanding is correct. From the decree of the bankruptcy order, if after that the new law comes into effect, then that case will be protected by law. But under existing law, those decree that was announced before the law went into effect, then that case would not be covered by the latest law. Zheng Keqiu, I think this is something good, but just something that comes late. Just then, the Undersecretary mentioned about covering the education sector. But I think this law should cover all public organizations where staff are entitled to contributions or provident funds, like medical organizations or organizations where the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Ordinance applies. Chairman, our proposed amendment is to amend the education bill. Under the bill, there are two provident funds. One is the Grand Schools Provident Fund, and the other is Subsidized Schools Provident Fund. And we're now only going to amend the law in relation to these two funds, that is, the beneficiaries or the teachers making contributions to these two funds. Other people are not covered by the amendment. Yes, I know you are talking about the education bill. But why is the government not doing something that covers all public organizations? Because I know public organizations have similar provident fund schemes. Well, Undersecretary, I think it's really beyond his power to answer or scope of work to answer this question. Any comments? Well, I can't respond on behalf of other departments, but to give you some background information, if a staff is under a mandatory provident fund scheme, well, I'm not talking about mandatory provident fund. I'm talking about the fact that many public organizations have their own provident fund schemes. Yes. Well, I don't think I'm in a position to respond here or to answer your questions on behalf of other public organizations. But I can say that each Provident Fund scheme is independent, so we need to look at the particular arrangements for each scheme. Chairman, my other question is, if we're to amend the law now, how long do you think it will take for the amendment to be made? Well, the amendment bill will be presented to Legislature in the second half of the current Legislative term. Yes, Chairman, if everything goes smoothly, we expect to submit the plan to you in February or March next year. And we hope to finish the amendment within the current legislative term. Yes, just then 3 members asked to speak. Malcolm Kwok, Paul Chair, and Yip Kwok Him. Just like I gave each member 4 minutes, but let me see if other speakers raise their hands. If not, then we'll let each of the 3 4 minutes. Malcolm Kwok. Yes, I'd like to follow up on Chung Kwok-chu's point. I do know that there are other statutory organizations or even tertiary institutions which have similar pension fund schemes. I know you can't speak on behalf of others, but could you take this matter back to the government and see, since you're amending the bill, can you try to provide similar protection for other similar organizations, so we can have one amendment that cover more organizations? Undersecretary? Yes, we can look at the amendment again. Even though we may not be able to make other subsequent amendments under the education bill, but we can see if other bureaus can work on it. Next one, Paul Chair. I'll be quick. I'd like to ask, this has nothing to do with this Undersecretary, but since in 2008 we had this case of Shui Fan, and in 2009 we heard the appeal, and we know that other government schools or under organizations protected by the MPF, they are exempted from the bankruptcy law. So why is it that the administration waited so long or lacked any forward thinking when the MPF schemes allow for amendments, other amendments that went into effect in 2011? Why were no subsequent actions taken and allowing cases like that of Shui Fan to happen? Undersecretary? I think looking back at the case, we found that even though it began in 2008, but by April 2010, the appeal was given. So back in 2010, we want to see whether the court will come up with a new view. And we wanted to see what the court said first. And at the same time, actually, around that time, we began our work on making the amendment. In May 2011, MPF has amended the law, and last year we wanted to take action. That is back in 2011-2012 year. But back then, because there were a lot of other amendment work we had to do, so our hands were quite full. Therefore, we now want to take the action now. But 2011 MPF amendments were made. Why didn't you take follow-up action immediately? Remember, in the last year of the last legislative term, we had a bunch of simple legal amendments, like local amendments and so forth, reaction to changes in 1 or 2 sections in the law. If you want to do it, there's no excuse for you to say that you couldn't do it back then. So I want you to review, do a post-mortem examination. What happened back then? So not just for the education sector, but for other subsidized organizations, there may be a need for them to make similar amendment too. So would the administration promise to carry out a review? We did follow the development of the whole case, as I said before, back in April 2010, because the appeal was allowed, and then the claimant applied for legal aid twice. I remember that back in 2012 August, the teacher involved obtained permission for legal aid. So all along, legal proceedings were going on, and I, for example, was consulting the management committee for the 2 provident funds. And since this case already affected the law and how the court interpreted the 2 provident funds, so therefore we wanted to see more of the legal opinions of what the court ruled first. So you're saying that court proceedings gave you the reason of not doing anything. Okay, next one is Yip Kok Him. I think my similar is quite similar to Paul Chair's concern. Mandatory provident fund came into effect in May 2011 after a major review. So I was very surprised why it took 1 year before you activated the amendment for this bill. I found it very difficult to understand. And the bankruptcy case already existed. Maybe the Undersecretary, you're not in a position to answer it, but I don't think the same situation should appear again. Can you give me the figure on, because of the lack of consistencies with the Provident Fund rules and the MPF schemes, how many people were affected? Do you have any estimate? And also in the past 5 years, how many teachers of aided schools had their pensions shelved, including the government's contributions to the pensions funds shelved because of bankruptcy? And how much money are we talking about there?
The Undersecretary, can you provide information? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Yip, for the question. If I may respond to the first question first. We heard the view of members, and in future, on similar cases, we will deal with them as soon as possible. We will not try to delay the matter. As for the number of teachers involved, from 2008 to 2012, on average, about 3 teachers were in such a situation. From 2008 to 2011, on average, 3 teachers suffered from bankruptcy orders per year. As for the implementation of MPF until now, amendment to the MPF SO, 2 teachers were affected by bankruptcy order. And from 2011 to 12, no teacher was involved in any bankruptcy order. As for the amount of money involved, well, we'll check. And if we find it suitable, we'll provide information. I'll look into that if we have our informer's tape. Now that leads to another question. According to the SSPF, paragraph 13, if the contributor, because of professional misconduct or because of conviction, will not be given the contribution by the administration. Do you have this figure as well? The Undersecretary. Chairman will provide information after the meeting. I think Mr. Yip is asking the amount of money which we have not funded. Well, Ms. Ip, I think the figure should be provided after, can be provided after the meeting, because I don't think he has brought along numbers. But the Undersecretary has already given us the figures of the past 5 years, and we really appreciate the professionalism of the Undersecretary.
個修例條例草案有意見，咁樣而家
Do members have any views concerning the amendments? The Undersecretary.
未支持住嘅，你總結咗先。
我希望大家可以支持啦。咁如果得到
I hope you all support us with your approval, and we'll move forward as soon as possible. As for the matters that do not fall within the scope of these two provident funds, we'll talk to the relevant department, see if how they can follow the matter up. The administration is going to introduce the bill in the second half of this legislative session. I have heard members' views, and I gather that members do support the amendment, right? Thank you very much. For the Undersecretary, we can tell you that we support the proposed amendment to the law. The next item on the agenda, a proposal for a scheme of admission of Hong Kong students to mainland higher education institutions, paper CB 4 207 1213 02 and 03. The Undersecretary and also one more government officials who is coming. Right. Ms. Lau, the PAS. Right. Before members speak, I will ask the Undersecretary to introduce the paper. Thank you, Chairman. The administration's policy is to promote a flexible and multiple entry tertiary education system or higher education system, while providing providing education opportunities. There is also the possibility of providing training opportunities, and more Hong Kong students are interested in studying in the mainland. In fact, the Ministry of Education last year announced that starting from 2012, mainland higher education institutions can enroll Hong Kong students basing on their results in the HKDSE and HKALE, exempting them from taking the joint entrance examination for universities, the PRC for overseas Chinese, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan students. The scheme has won the appreciation of students and parents, and they believe that the scheme is able to provide a further channel for Hong Kong students to pursue further education in the mainland. Over 4,200 students coming from 500 schools applied for higher education in the mainland. And in the first round, the universities have enrolled about 1,500, and finally, about 900 have eventually confirmed they were admitted. Several measures of improvement were made. The number of schools has increased to 70, including 2 foreign language universities. There is a wider variety of choice. As for the enrollment arrangement, the application arrangement will be made after May, that is after the HKDSE, and this will allow students sufficient time to familiarize themselves with details of the scheme and also avoid distraction to candidates sitting local public examination. And there is also the introduction of minimum general entrance requirement of 2211 for candidates applying for arts and sports program to encourage students outstanding performance in arts and sports to join the scheme. To make better use of the places, the mechanism has been changed from parallel choices to priority choices for enrollment, and that will enable more students to be benefited. The education panel, together with the MOE, have jointly organized the 2012 Mainland Education Expo in Hong Kong. The students, teachers, school authorities in Hong Kong are able to understand the specific arrangements in the coming year. Information has been provided to the students and participants, and over 7,500 visitors went to the expo. We have issued a handbook to provide details, including information of the education institutions, the selection strategy, the experience of graduates, so on and so forth. During the expo, the handbook has been distributed and has been uploaded to our website. There's also in Annex 3. I hope members take note of details, and we welcome members' comments.
委員提問嘅時間，第一位陳家樂議員。
主席，我有幾多分鐘
？Mr. Chen, Mr. Chen Gallo, you have 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Now, as for Hong Kong students who are matriculated, many of them may not have any place in Hong Kong, and many people criticize the government. The students in Hong Kong have passed so many hurdles, they passed so many exams, and they want to study in the universities in Hong Kong, yet because of not adequate subsidy, not adequate funding, the students have to pay money out of their own pockets to study in self-financing courses, and there is also over-admission. This is really a mess that administration has not sorted out. Now the administration is encouraging students to study outside Hong Kong. I want to know, what is the expenditure on this scheme? Is it that they also need to share the cost of this scheme? Now you have organized 2 expos. Now you have been positive, according to your paper. But if you look at the number of students who have been admitted, who have finally studied in the mainland, it's just 18% of the total number of applications. Should you continue this? Is it just because Vice Premier Lee, or now Premier Lee, went to visit Hong Kong, and therefore you have to continue this scheme? And what's the purpose of having the scheme? Now, the students are exempted from the joint entrance examination. Through your visits to the mainland, have you ever talked to the mainland to have a reciprocal arrangement, i.e., Hong Kong is considering admitting mainland secondary school students to study in our universities without going through our examinations? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chan. I think Mr. Chan has pointed out a long-standing issue, and that is how many subsidized places in the university should be provided to our students. While we are exploring the ways of making any improvement, we need to accept the fact that at present there aren't enough subsidized places in the universities to meet the demand of students who have met the minimum requirements, minimum entrance requirements. Some students may be able to get a place in universities locally, but they choose to study overseas, and some students may not have a place in the local universities, and they therefore have to go out to study somewhere else. The present scheme is able to provide a chance for students who want to study in the mainland. In the past, if they can't get any places in Hong Kong, if they want to study in the mainland, they have to participate in the joint entrance examination. In the mainland, they have to go through the interviews and many other steps. The present scheme is to help those students who want to study in the mainland. They don't need to attend the joint entrance examination. They can focus on the Hong Kong DSE, and basing on the HKDSE, some higher education institutions in the mainland are willing to accept and recognize the results obtained from the DSE. This generally facilitates. I think the administration is just passing the buck. There is no commitment. The government has no commitment. We put money to nurture our future generation. You just pass the buck to the mainland. I want to ask how much money you spend on this scheme, and will there be any reciprocal arrangement so that mainland students having their joint examination in mainland can use the exam results to apply for admission in Hong Kong? Two questions on the expenditure. Perhaps the PAS can answer the question. I think Mr. Chan is referring to the expenditure on the Expo. Now, these students go to the study in the mainland. We don't give the students any subsidy. As for the Expo, in the first in a year, in 1 year it was organized in the government school. In the other year, it was organized in the HKCEC. The expenditure was about $3 to $4 million. That includes the fitting out decorations and publicity, including the handbook. We pay all the bill. As for the Expo, we paid for the Expo, but the 7 higher education institutions send representatives to Hong Kong. The room and board and traveling expenses were paid by the mainland institutions. As for exemption, it's only applicable to Hong Kong students. In the mainland, if you study in the mainland universities, you need to first pass the joint entrance examination for universities for overseas Chinese, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan students. The exemption concept is only applicable to Hong Kong students. As for mainland students, if they want to study in Hong Kong, the universities, the local universities admit mainland students basing on the joint examination of the mainland. And there is no exemption. Chairman, in fact, the local universities admit mainland students according to the mainland results. Therefore, they don't need to attend any additional examination in Hong Kong. That's the present situation. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, I'm happy to see this scheme, but it's really a pity that the administration is not able to provide any data on how many students applied for mainland universities, set for examinations, and got their places in the mainland in comparison with the present scheme. And how does the administration assess the impact of this scheme on giving relief to students who want to pursue higher education? Is this scheme having a bright prospect, and will the scheme be further enhanced? It is one country, two systems. If our students can study in the mainland, they are in line with the many functions of our university, of our society. Since we cannot afford too many subsidized university places locally, can we have you consider providing subsidy to Hong Kong students so that they can study in the mainland? Now, the cost of financing students locally is very high, but the cost of financing students in mainland will be much cheaper.
Yeah.
4 questions? Yes, Chairman, I'll try to answer them. As for data, before the implementation of the scheme, that is students who took part in the recruitment exam for mainland universities, we don't have any figure on the number of people doing the exam because it's up to the students involved to choose to take the exam. So we don't have proper estimate. But it's easy for you to get the figure, isn't it? Well, let him finish. We will know, under the plan, though, the current plan, how many students want to study on the mainland. A few years down the road, we will be able to have a fair assessment of the situation. I think it will take us a few years to know the actual demand, because there were about 4,000 odd students who said they were interested in studying on the mainland. Ultimately, 900 were accepted. As for the issue of subsidy, this is a big issue. Our subsidy policy now is to subsidize students studying in Hong Kong only. For those who study outside of Hong Kong, we need to consider on the whole, policy-wise, whether we should subsidize students studying overseas, not just on the mainland, but in other countries. Whether there needs to be support for all students studying abroad. So this is a big issue, and the amount involved could be very huge. So far, our policy remains the same, that we will only subsidize students who are studying in Hong Kong. Have I missed any question? Okay, you have time for follow-up question. Well, I'm a bit disappointed with your answer to the first question. It's impossible for the Education Bureau not to know how many students are studying overseas. I know it may not be your fault, but for a long time, maybe you hadn't paid attention to the matter. But I think Education Bureau should know about the number of students studying on the mainland. Because you could get the figure from agency arranging for Hong Kong students to study on the mainland. You can't treat it as you have nothing to do with this matter. And just then, the Undersecretary said, the policy doesn't cover studying abroad. But there's a difference between studying abroad and studying on the mainland. This is an important policy issue. So I hope the Undersecretary can discuss it within your bureau with your colleagues and give us proper answers in the future. Undersecretary, would you collect the data and also bring Mr. Ma's proposal to the bureau? Yes, we will see what figure we can come up with. Yeah, Mr. Ma said it's very easy for you to get a figure. I can find them for you, but it shouldn't be me who get a figure for you. Yes, Undersecretary, we will find the data through our way. It wouldn't take long. As for the overall policy, all along we've been reviewing our policy of providing subsidy for students, so we will consider your point. Next one, Chung Ko-chu. Chairman, back to paragraph 5 of the government's paper. I don't quite understand the figure there, where it says there were 3,433 students accepted. The paper mentions that ultimately there are 971 students accepted. But I want to get some clarifications here. How many applied initially? And you said that you're talking about exemption from the mainland college entrance exam. But has the Hong Kong government or the Education Bureau thought about the situation of accreditation? Because we know that for accredited places in Hong Kong, students normally prefer those places. Just then when you answer Mr. Ma's question, you said it's difficult to subsidize students studying outside of Hong Kong. But I know many students with financial difficulties also hope to study abroad. So would you provide some kind of loan? The government give them low interest-free loan or low interest-free loan to allow them to study outside of here? And fourthly, you're talking about exemption now, but Would it be possible that some students want to test their ability by taking part in the exam, to qualify them for studies on the mainland? And also now there are some private organizations here that recruit students from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Do you know if there are any agencies that reap profits from it? Now the government is arranging for students to study on the mainland. What's the difference between what you're doing and that of other agencies? Under Secretary, yes, as I said, last year, about 4,200 secondary school students applied through the scheme for study on the mainland. But they had to meet the minimum requirements of 3322. And after the HKTSD results were released, 1,700 of the applicants were eligible for mainland places. And in the end, mainland institutions made an offer of 1,500 places. And in the end, we're told that 971 students took up the offers. As for examination, the routes for studying on the mainland, simply put, the joint recruitment or college entrance examination is still going on. That is, students can take part in the interviews arranged by the 70 institutions, or they can take part in the joint recruitment exam offered by more than 200 institutions. And there are also individual institutions that recruit students here independently. So there are a number of ways for students to study at the mainland. And our policy all along is that, well, as you know, in terms of accreditation, if a student wants to move on to master's degree and so forth, local and mainland institutions have mechanisms of mutual recognition of their qualifications. So, as for the government's view, well, the government's position is that a graduate who applies for a civil servant post, the government will evaluate the position of the institution he graduated from. As for the provision of a loan for students studying on the mainland, I think similar to what Mr. Ma said. I think the question is separate from Mr. Ma's point. Chairman, can you ask again? My question is whether the government is offering any loan to students who want to study on the mainland. And the Secretary? Chairman, let me try to answer this. Well, Mr. Ma was talking about subsidy, giving money or funding for students, but you were talking about the provision of a loan. I think our consideration is the same, that we need to consider what financial implications this would have for the government. But for loans, students need to pay them back to the government. Well, I know you're not offering any loan now, but would you consider ordering loans for the government? Would you consider, Under Secretary? Yes, but now we will not consider offering loans for students. But once we have carried out our entire review of providing assistance for students, we would consider that possibility. Next one, Vice Chairman Kin-yuen. Just then, Chen Kok-chu mentioned about loans. I think that's something really worth considering. I hope that the Bureau can take it on board. I've got several questions on the present scheme. Of course, it brings about changes as spelled out in, or introduced in the paper as improvements. Point A is you're talking about improving management This is something good because you are allowing for students to, have a better mechanism. But for students who have to understand about so many institutions in a short period of time and then make parallel choices, they have to list out their priority choices. But that means that students have to understand a strange or unfamiliar education system in a short period of time. So I wonder whether you would provide some kind of help so that student can make better choices. In Hong Kong, it's easy for the students to know which institution, which program is strong, and they know which is the better choice for them. But for example, university in Guangxi or Shanxi, they would have little understanding of the difference between those institutions. And as for the improvement measures in D, it's similar to what Zhang Kaochu said. This is something to do with recognition of the qualifications. Now, for arts and sports programs, you are reducing the general entrance requirement to 2211. This is something good for some students, but comparatively speaking, many sub-degree or associate degree programs would not accept students with such level of results. So back to this issue of recognition of qualifications, this could further pose problems to recognition of mainland qualifications. Some students may think that, well, 2211 allows me to apply for arts and sports programs on the mainland, but back in Hong Kong, my qualifications may be recognized. Well, hopefully the government will recognize them, but could you explain a bit on this? Would that be a problem for recognition? Under Secretary? For parallel choices, I think to individual students, this means that they need to find out earlier what they want. But if we look at it broadly, I think to all students, so we now would have 4 students choosing various institutions. So this can give students more flexibility. But I know what the Vice Chairman was saying, so therefore this year we will carry out more expos and provide more information to students so that we can help students make choices earlier. And we also believe that parents, students, when they make a choice of studying overseas or abroad, they will carry out some research. Even for places in Europe or North America, they would know beforehand what they are going into. And as for 2211 as entrance requirement for arts and sports, we're talking about Chinese, English, math, and liberal studies here. For arts and sports, because they have different requirements. For us, they would expect a student to reach a certain level in piano playing. So even though academically speaking the requirements are lowered, but the students are expected to meet other requirements in other areas. As for recognition of qualifications, after the student has finished the university degree, it depends on the university results and also the entire curriculum of the university before we can decide whether the qualification is recognized. Next one, Mok Lai Kwong. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to support Mr. Kenneth Chan's point that the biggest problem now is we don't have enough degree places. In the short run, we can't improve the situation, but we hope that in the long run, action can be taken to address this issue. And as for this exemption scheme, I'd like to ask, is it that the Hong Kong government is only providing guidelines for students studying on the mainland? Is the main reason you think that Hong Kong students lack understanding about education on the mainland? Whereas for studying overseas, you think that they know very much about that. Therefore, there's no need for similar guidelines issued. But I think from the policy perspective, if your purpose is to make up for the shortfall of degree places here, I think whether students are going to other countries or the mainland, there should be a difference in terms of policy. Or you shouldn't be giving priority assistance to those going to the mainland, because all destinations are important. Many overseas colleges actually are recruiting students in Hong Kong. If you want to issue a guideline or handbook for students or to provide assistance, I think students would welcome similar handbooks for studying in popular destinations. So what are your criteria in deciding? I do support your latest initiative to give Hong Kong students more choices of mainland institutions. But what criteria did you use in deciding what kinds of handbook or guidelines to be issued? Or is the Bureau also providing similar guidelines for students going to other countries, for example, teaching them what exams to take and so forth? What are your criteria? I don't think it shouldn't be just because Li Ka-chiang came and made the announcement last time.
俾多啲嘅資訊俾香港學生去其他嘅選擇呢？
Will you provide more information to other students? I think we do have a lot of overseas education institutions coming to Hong Kong to recruit students, say be they coming from the mainland or from Taiwan, from Australia, USA, or UK. They have different kinds of recruitment arrangements. They may work through local institutions. Now this time we are working with the MOE, Ministry of Education of our country. The MOE has made arrangements with some higher education institutions in the mainland so that they exempt the requirement of the joint examination. And under this framework, we provide the detailed information to local students. It is a cooperation with the MOE. Do you set any standard? What do you mean by standard? I think he has already answered my question. If that's the case, have other countries indicated that they want to cooperate with our Education Bureau to organize these activities? Thank you, Chairman. At present, there is no discussion of this matter on a government level. But we do not rule out the possibility that if there is room for cooperation, we can proceed. Next, Fernando Zhang. First of all, we need to have enough places in our universities. Over 2 decades, we have only increased the number of places by a few hundred. That's really out of date. Let me state my position. As for exempting the students, the Hong Kong students, from joint entrance examination, no objection to that. I think as a parent, my concern is about the recognition of the qualification, whether such qualifications obtained in the mainland will be recognized. I have read through this whole handbook or guide. And I also go to the HKCAA. And I have not found whether a certain subject or a certain course provided by the People's University or the or other universities in the mainland is recognized. And the student will have to apply to the HKCAA for assessment to see if the qualification is recognized, or to what extent qualification is recognized. Now, that's really complicated. Now, even this guidebook or handbook has not provided anything on recognition. The book is colorful and attractive, but the question is still whether the qualification obtained from these higher education institutions will be recognized. Is there any place from which students can have access and find out whether the qualification obtained in these universities will be recognized by the Hong Kong government or other Hong Kong professional organizations, the PAS. Now, the question has been raised by many students and parents at the Expo. In this guidebook, on page 15, we have the FAQs. Let me answer this briefly. The qualification recognized by the Hong Kong government as for local qualifications, we recognize all of them when we recruit civil servants. As for overseas qualifications, there is no distinction between the mainland vis-à-vis UK, US qualifications. Anyone holding a non-local university qualification, when they apply for a job in a private sector company, it is up to that company itself. Maybe a Taiwanese company in Hong Kong may recognize a Taiwan qualification, and mainland companies in Hong Kong may recognize mainland qualifications. It's up to that particular company which is recruiting any employee. As for recognition by the Hong Kong government, an application can be made to the HKCAA, and the CAA will make an assessment, and then the Civil Service Bureau will decide on whether it accept it or not. Now, as for the application for EOs and AOs, there are colleagues who have successfully got the job basing on a mainland qualification. My question is not after the completion of the course. It is to know that beforehand. Does the administration accept such qualifications? Mr. Chairman, we only consider the qualification on an individual basis, so there is no recognition at all. It's not that we don't recognize the qualification, but we don't give we don't conduct a comprehensive review of all the courses of the higher education institutions and say which one we recognize, which one we don't recognize. Well, we have to explain to you have to explain to the students. They spend years studying in the mainland, and they still have to wait whether the qualification is recognized or not. They've paid for that with time and money, and they don't know whether it will be recognized. Isn't it strange? The scheme is promoted by the administration. It's not done by the private sector. Now, the spirit of the scheme is to facilitate. Okay, next one. Well, obviously, he can't answer the question. There's no point of pressing that. Now, this is a very serious issue. When a student or when a parent decides on whether the child is going to study in a particular course in the mainland. They really need to know beforehand whether the qualification is recognized. They have to spend several years of time and money on a course, and there is no little chance of doing it all over again after that. What courses you recognize, what universities you recognize, you need to provide a clear list. Let all students and parents know so that they can make an informed choice. Otherwise, you better not do it. You have the expo. And this time you specifically participate in the expo. You pay for the expo. It's not the schools coming here, not the higher education institutions coming here to organize an expo. And the students, having studied in those courses, don't know whether the qualifications obtained will be recognized. If you look at the names of these universities, they are quite good. Say, for example, a fashion school. We really don't have such courses in Hong Kong. But the point is, you better not organize the expo because there is a recognition problem. Please state your question. Now, concerning accreditation, would you work on those courses and higher education institutions which are more popular, say whether you recognize them or not? Will you do that? The Undersecretary. It is impossible to do the accreditation for all these universities. The participation of the administration may raise the issue of whether the administration should look into the courses to be provided by the higher education institutions, see if they meet the administration's requirement. We'll go back and think about it and see what we can do under this scheme. We'll look into that.
相信即係大家都明白，佢70間院校裏邊，就算呢70間院校裏邊，佢裏邊唔同嘅科目出嚟喺。
There are 70 schools, 70 higher education institutions. They organize many courses, and the graduates may apply to different jobs. And the qualification, the use of the qualification differs. There is a very big number of permutations. Well, it's about the government's role. You organize the expo. You just pass about. You say you don't know the requirement of other private institutions, other companies. That's not the problem. That's not the question. How does the administration recognize these qualifications? We see what we can do. It's really complicated. Say, for example, AO. Different universities may have different faculties and departments and courses. It will be difficult to give a blanket recognition. What I'm not asking you to do to give a blanket recognition. I'm asking about popular courses in popular higher education institutions. It isn't just limited to the mainland institutions. You should do the same for European and North American universities. I have students who have asked for assessment and accreditation, and they have been waiting for a very long time. Yes, I've heard the view of the member. I'll talk to the other departments, see what we can do. When will you be able to give us an answer? Well, I'll give you an answer after the meeting. What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, I have to talk to other departments. Can we set a deadline? Say, it will be difficult if it is within this year, but how about March, April next year? Okay, before March, April next year. Okay, April and March next year. Next, Liu Kuo-hong. The administration should be held responsible. It's just like the mercantile company. I know that the one who is representing that company is going to get a place in the NPC. Is very influential. But I really don't see any point of the administration participating in this kind of expo. Do we go to the mainland to recruit students? This is exporting our education industry. But do we go there and do road shows and then recruit students to Hong Kong and do this kind of business, soliciting business? Well, the administration didn't do it or doesn't do it. But as for Hong Kong institutions, if they want to do that, well, let him finish. Let him finish. The administration doesn't do it, but that's up to individual universities. In the mainland, do they have such business soliciting activities or soliciting for education, soliciting for students? Say, for example, in Canton, or rather in Guangzhou, does the universities organize activities in Guangzhou to recruit students to Hong Kong? I think mainland students participate in joint examinations to select their universities.
當然未必係。
Well,
首先，
I think, Li Ka-cheng proposed it, but I think that this recruitment exercise should be stopped because the government, if you take part in a recruitment exercise like this, you are responsible for it. Once you're involved, should there be scandals in the future, what can you do? I think it's better for the government not to get involved when there's no need for it to. Now, you say that you would have to talk to other departments on recognition of qualifications and, to look into the kinds of jobs to be offered. But I find it troubling because we don't study to get jobs alone. I understand that students or parents are very concerned what kinds of jobs they are eligible for upon graduation. But such mindset is wrong. But what's your question? Well, my point is I'm asking the government not to be involved in this scheme at all. And also, what is Etienne's involvement in this matter? Did he initiate it, or was it initiated in Michael Swin's time? Okay, 2 points raised. Chairman, I'll answer the second question first. The scheme was initiated before the current term of government. Okay, first question. I understand Mr. Leung's point. He was saying that there are so many issues that government needs to tackle under the scheme. But I think the spirit of it all is that we want to give Hong Kong students the option of studying on the mainland. Without this scheme, they would need to gather information themselves and go through a joint recruitment exam. So the advantages of this scheme is that it would save the students troubles and they would not need to take one more examination and can rely on their results in HKDSE to be eligible for admission into mainland institutions. So this will make the whole process easier for students. Thank you. Next round, 2 questions. 2 speakers. One is Mavon Kwok, the other is Kenneth Chan in the second round of questioning. 3 minutes each. Chairman, well, I just want to follow up on my previous question. First is you have to assess the result of the scheme. Just then, what was the situation like before the scheme was introduced, and what about with the implementation of this scheme? Just then the Undersecretary said that they will only know the effect a few years later, but I think you should know the possible outcome immediately. I hope that the Undersecretary can do some homework. It's not that difficult for him to get some data. And also back to the issue of subsidy. It can take various forms. One is through the loans or providing actual subsidy. But as I said, studying in the mainland is different from studying in other countries, so there can be differences in policy. But as mentioned by a colleague, if there's some kind of assistance, that is good. I support giving students financial assistance wherever they go. And back to the issue of employment of graduates. 70 mainland institutions here. I think the government can just list out which universities the government recognizes. And if you need time to assess other universities, just say so. I think the tens of institutions in the mainland are good ones. I think most of them. I think for general positions in the civil service, I think there shouldn't be any problem with recognizing qualifications of most institutions. So the government should look into both the education and employment prospects. Under Secretary? Yes. Well, I think there are data available. If you look at the guidebook given out to you on page 6, it's also mentioned after the handover the cumulative figure of students admitted by mainland institutions, the number about 60,000. And there are more than 11,155 students admitted into universities and studying at mainland universities and research institutes in 2011 and 12 alone. But I think we do need a few years to see the actual effect of the scheme. As for the issue of subsidy, I'm not going to repeat what I've said. I think when we carry out the entire review of assistance, we would consider this issue as well. As for employment, as I said, I will go back and discuss with various departments and see what information we can release later on. Okay, Kenneth Chen. Yes, this is a follow-up to my previous question. This morning, I heard from the government representatives that so far it has no plan or discussed whether there is the plan to open up our university places to mainland students without the requirement of examination. But let me remind the administration that the public expects the government to do proper things, that is, to help our students study at universities here first. I think a lot of the news reports saying, for example, Eddie went to Beijing to explore the possibility of a parallel arrangement and so forth. So I think if there are any plans being made, you should consult the public first before, for example, opening up our higher education places to mainland students. And secondly, on the issue of cost and effect, $3 million is the expenses for the expos, but because our permanent secretary did not attend our meeting and on small class teaching and attended expos of the mainland institutions, I think that's another kind of cost. But I still think. Well, you may not be in the position to handle this national policy, but the policy submitted tells us, I think it shows that I think mainland institutions are dissatisfied as well. Hong Kong students can go and apply to various institutions, and when the school term starts, the institutions don't know whether the students are coming or not. I think that's why you came up with this idea of priority choice, because students may apply to 10 institutions and yet in the end decide to study associate degrees here because they think they may be employed with the associate degree qualification as compared to getting a mainland qualification. So the whole thing seems like a joke to me, but we have no choice under the national policy. So I think you do need to maybe perhaps give the scheme one more year, but tell the truth to Li Keqiang later on, whether this scheme is really feasible. The intention may be good, but is it really what Hong Kong people want? Under Secretary, simply put, our education will put the interests of Hong Kong students first. I think our major principle remains how to help Hong Kong students study in Hong Kong, on the mainland, or in overseas. Next one, Fernando Zhang. Your participation in this scheme, exempting students from the joint examination, I think it's better not for the government to be involved. Because once you are involved, you have to shoulder responsibilities. And because you're not helping students going elsewhere to study. Now that the government is taking part in these schemes and you don't tell parents and students about whether the qualifications are recognized, and you expect them to apply for accreditation from the government body and have to pay $2,000 to get the accreditation done, then this could lead to possible legal disputes later on, or legal cases later on. I know that the government wants to shoe shine or curry favor with the central government, but I suggest you better not do it. As mentioned by the Undersecretary, all non-local universities, whether they're in the mainland or not, actually covers institutions from everywhere. So why are we helping with the recruitment of mainland institutions particularly? This is something stupid, so let's just not get involved in it. Undersecretary, yes, I heard from members. I think when we review this scheme, we would consider members' views. Chung Shu Khan just raised his hand. Well, I think we'll count you as a member is going to speak in the second round. Just you will queue up after Vice Chairman and Leung Kwok-hong. Vice Chairman, I've got two questions. During the whole process, you had the expo and so forth. That's one way. But I think a better way is to contact the counseling teachers in schools, or the guidance teachers. Maybe we can. I think it's more effective to disseminate the information to the guidance teachers in schools. And whether these teachers have adequate information about studying in the mainland. And secondly, in your handbook, in the preface on page 1, you listed the names of supporting organizations, and yet on the cover of it, you highlighted Hok Yao Club as the sponsor and supporting organization. So I want to ask, what's the role of Hok Yao Club in the whole scheme? Why is this name highlighted on the cover? And the Secretary, may I ask the Secretary to answer? First question, as for the Careers Master Association, people in the career guidance schemes or schools are our most important partners. So the support is very crucial to the success of this scheme. So let's not be worried. We have arranged for seminars for all the careers and counseling masters. And also, whenever we have new information about the scheme, we would notify definitely the careers and counseling guidance teachers association. So these teachers do play a very important role in the scheme. You can rest assured. As for the role of Hok Yao Club, very simple. It is one of our supporting organizations. It's equivalent to the Career and Counseling Guidance Teacher Association. But we asked the Hok Yao Club to provide some editorial support for this guidebook. With mainland institutions we mainly coordinate with them their information. So therefore, we highlighted Hot Yao Club on the cover because of their editorial support. Well, Justin, did I hear the word commission or what? The role of... Can you explain again the role of Hot Yao Club? Chairman, it's not that we commissioned it, because before Hot Yao Club has been... Just tell me the role of Hot Yao Club. For this guidebook, we hired Hot Yao Club to do the design and editorial content of the book. At the same time, in the whole scheme, Hot Yao Club supports the entire scheme. Next one, Leung Kwok Hong. Chairman.
In fact, that is nothing, but they're going to kick up a lot of dust. You ask for an assessment of the universities. How dare you? How dare you? If you say University A is not up to standard, then the party secretary of University A will tell the Communist Party, will complain to the Communist Party. How dare you assess the standard of the universities in China and say they are not up to standard? They dare not do so. You better do away with it. You better stop doing this. How dare you? Say number 55, university number 55 is not up to standard. We don't recognize the qualification. We don't accept the graduates. You dare not do that. If you continue to organize this kind of events, you get into trouble. I will not, if I say the Huanan Technical University is not up to standard, well then the Da Kong Bao or Wen Wei Bao will criticize you. You cause a lot of trouble if you say so. Well, let me give a piece of my mind to Eddie. Please stop this. The Secretary is willing to listen to the advice of members on education matters, and of course will bring this view back to him. Next, Mr. Chung Shu Kan. I'm a member of the Hot Yao Club, but I have not participated in the decision process of the Hot Yao Club for over 20 years, and I am not involved in the editing of this book. I think the students have a choice. They can choose the subjects they like. Some subjects are not available in Hong Kong. Say, for example, art and sports subjects. They are not available in the universities locally. If there are such courses in the mainland, why can't the students go there? Why can't the administration give any support to them, financial support to them? Now, we organized the expo because these students are going to study in the mainland, and they don't know the situation in the mainland. In Beijing is below zero already. Temperature is below zero already. And if they just go there in a shirt, with just a shirt, that will be freezing. And there's also the need to set out what courses are recognized. I think we can take the initiative to make an assessment on certain courses and certain courses provided by certain universities. If you think the courses are up to standard or provided at a higher standard than ours, you should do it. You don't need to do it overnight, but you do need to tell us you have such a plan. Maybe next year you just have accredited 8 or 9 courses. That's still okay, but you will accumulate such achievements. The Secretary. For the Undersecretary, I have said that we will go back to talk to the relevant departments, see what we can do in terms of accreditation. If members don't have other views, then I'll say a few words. Mr. Undersecretary, nearly all the people of Hong Kong and and also the whole education sector know that we don't have enough university places locally. Hong Kong is a knowledge-based economy, and we need to nurture our own talents. The shortage of university places is an urgent problem. If the administration is complacent and doesn't seek any breakthrough, then the administration will not be able to solve the problem in the coming 5, 10, or even 20 years. Many members, including Ma Fung Kwok, Jean Kwok Chu, Chan Ka-lok, Leung Kok Hong, and Charles Mok, have made a number of good proposals, and I hope the administration will take a lead from such good advice. I think the administration should base their assessment of the scheme on data and facts instead of just impression. Mr. Ma, Mr. Chung, and other members asked the administration to collect more information. I think the administration should back up the scheme with suitable data. Some members support the scheme, some are against the scheme. When will you review the scheme, and what are the performance indicators for reviewing the scheme? The Under Secretary, will you conduct a review? When will it be done, and what performance indicators will be adopted? Well, let me say that this scheme is not to deal with the shortage of university places in Hong Kong. We just want to facilitate students who are interested in going to study in the mainland. We facilitate the movement, we facilitate the arrangement so that there is no examination required. And we'll keep on reviewing whether improvements can be made to the scheme. And members' views we've heard today will be also a reference for us as to whether we will continue the scheme or will call it to a halt. The basic principle is whether the scheme can help local students. That's the most important issue. We have to, most important factor we have to take into account. As for the numbers in 1 or 2 years may not be able to fully reflect the success or otherwise of the scheme, but we are able we are able to provide a number of students who applied, and finally how many have been admitted. And if the figures will tell us whether the students will find the scheme popular or not. Well, I draw a line after Tommy Chung. Just a quick point. I support the scheme. Hong Kong students studying overseas. They go overseas for many reasons. Say there aren't enough places in Hong Kong. There are people who are not happy with the local education, local universities. But in fact, in my school, in the school in which I participated in its in the school in which I was involved, some of the students had gone to study in the mainland in Beijing University years ago. I think the scheme will provide more opportunities to local students, including those studying sub-degree courses. I hope you will take that into account. Yes, we will consider that. All right. Concerning the topic on the scheme for admission of Hong Kong students to mainland higher education institutions, the discussion is drawn to a close. I thank the officials for coming. We now move on to item 5 and 6. Item 5 and 6. Item 5 is a proposal by Mr. Kin-yuen to set up a subcommittee to study the secondary, the establishment and number of classes of secondary schools, and Mr. Fernando Cheung proposes to set up a subcommittee to consider integrated education. And Mr. Yip has withdrawn his proposal because he knows that There is a very tight demand for setting up subcommittees, and he prefers to give way to Dr. Cheung's proposal. Now, I therefore call upon Dr. Cheung to explain his proposal, and then I'll see how many members would like to speak. 4 minutes, Dr. Cheung. I thank Chairman and also Mr. Yip for providing the slot for my proposal. Integration education is very important to the overall education system. The administration introduced a pilot scheme many years ago. Some schools were involved. Funding was provided to the schools, and the amount of funding provided at that time was much more than the present amount. Now, with the pilot scheme was a success. Later, theoretically speaking, all the schools have to accept students with special education needs, or SENs. There are over 10,000 of such SENs. Some students are mentally handicapped, slightly mildly mentally handicapped. Some are visually impaired, some are hearing impaired, and some have other disabilities. The integration education has caused a lot of problems to students, to parents, to teachers and schools. And teachers have difficulties with regard to handling SENs. Some teachers say that if in a classroom there are 1 or 2 SENs, in particular if the SENs are hyperactive, then there are difficulties with the teaching of the class. It is not the problem of the student, it's a problem of the system. If we can have a better arrangement for SENs and better arrangement for special education, then it will be beneficial not only to the individual students but the overall education system. SENs, there are different kinds of SENs, and they have different needs. And I hope the subcommittee will follow the matter up one by one. Now, concerning the school for the deaf, I said there were 2 schools, but in fact there is only 1. The trend is to put all the SENs in the mainstream schools, and the number of special schools and their classes are being reduced. Some special schools have been closed. We have doubts about it. I think the subcommittee should conduct studies into such matters. I want to know who would like to speak on this. Chung Shugan, Tommy Chang, Leung Kwok Hong, Alina Wong, the Vice Chairman, and who else? And Fernando Chung. Okay.
OK， 每人3分。
Each of you has 3 minutes. Chung Shu-kan. I'll be brief. The DAB feels that there's no need to set up the subcommittee because we can discuss the issues in the panel. As for the issue of integrated education, if we were to set up a subcommittee, I think the subcommittee should be set up under the House Committee because it involves a lot of social welfare issues, not just education alone. Because if you have the subcommittee set up under the panel here, you may not be able to find the welfare officials that we need to talk to. So it should be set up under the House Committee instead. Well, integrated education all along has been our matter of interest. It does belongs to this panel. It's an issue that belongs to the panel. Well, in that case, I don't see the need for the subcommittee. Let's just discuss it here at the panel. If necessary, we can invite welfare officials to come here. Next one, Kin-yuen. Chairman, I'll be quick. I don't support setting up a subcommittee. And secondly, I have a different view on integrated education. I feel that particularly when I was director of ESF, not in KG5, we tried to carry out some integration work. The government's budget is very tiny. And teacher training, integration of SEN students, students with, hearing impairment or mental handicap, they do need the support of various teachers. You can't teach students with these problems and be able to teach students with other problems the next term. How can I possibly cope with all these students? That's why I think that integrated education is not a success. And it also creates divisions among teachers and parents. And resources are limited either. And each school with such SEN students is struggling. Therefore, I think the government should evaluate the policy and to try to enhance special schools, put more SEN students into special schools instead. Some students may be able to be integrated into normal schools, but for most SEN students, they can't. Therefore, I don't support setting up the subcommittee in this panel. Next one, Leung Kwok-hong. Well, why the need for the subcommittee? Because we want to find out how successful integrated education is. If you want the government to stop something, you need to give it the rationale. My view is that I think integrated education is similar to other policy matters. Whenever there's any international convention ratified, then the government would say, oh, let's follow suit, and yet it's not giving adequate resources. There's no resource to support a particular policy, and teachers are not trained to handle all these SEN students, and yet you keep pushing SEN students into mainstream schools. So it doesn't work. So setting up the subcommittee would help find out, now that the pilot scheme has proven to be successful, well, it seemed to work, but can we really implement the scheme across the board? So we can just have quick meetings under the subcommittee and see, in the absence of resources, whether we can send a large number of SEN students into mainstream schools. That's an issue that we need to resolve. So I agree that there should be a subcommittee and handle the issue swiftly. Next one is Kin-yuen. Thank you, Chairman. I agree with having the subcommittee to review our integrated education policy. I don't know why some members will object to the idea. If we have a policy that's been going on for some time and attracted various voices of criticism, then we should look into the policy again carefully. If we discuss it in our regular meetings, panel meetings, then we won't be able to look at the issue in depth. I've heard from teachers, from schools, views on integrated education. So we need to see whether we should carry on with the existing policy and how we can achieve the best results. And we can also identify the problems here. There are issues that are worthy of in-depth discussions. We can look at what the overseas model is. For some school, for example, cases overseas, SEN students are just integrated into schools, but not scattered across various classes, and leave it up to teachers to handle them. So different approaches could have different effects. We need to evaluate the effectiveness of the current arrangement. Otherwise, the policy wouldn't work. Therefore, I support having the subcommittee. Next one is Vice Chairman. Chairman, I don't want to give up on my proposal for the subcommittee, but because that's also another important issue. I hope that after we're done with integrated education, members will agree setting up the subcommittee that I proposed. But at the same time, I feel that Fernando Zheng's proposal for the subcommittee is necessary. Therefore, I support it. Mr. Zheng initiated the idea for the subcommittee earlier than me, therefore I gave him the priority. As we all know, integrated education is not going very smoothly. So many problems have risen, therefore it justifies having the subcommittee. As members rightly pointed out, there are many points that I don't need to repeat here. But apart from teacher training and administration, financial support is another key point. So I propose that we should look at the financial aspect as well. Last one is Fernando Zheng. Thank you, members, for your views. I heard from the opposition from DAB and the Liberal Party. But I know that these parties also feel that there are problems with integrated education today. Since there are problems, we should discuss them together. Otherwise, we can't make improvements. If we do nothing, as we have seen, when the Hong Kong government did nothing, the consequences were disastrous. And also, we don't want to waste any person's life. If integrated education is not done properly, then we are actually harming the lives of many. I hope that the subcommittee can look properly, as mentioned by the Vice Chairman, into not just the content of integrated education, the needs of students, the situation of various SEN students. We also need to look at the entire financial arrangement for the policy. That should be the crux of the matter as well. So I hope members can support my idea. Any other members who want to speak? If not, then of all the members who spoke to oppose the idea of the subcommittee, but those two members left this room after speaking. So my understanding is that the remaining legislators supported the subcommittee. If I do not hear any more opposition, then I would conclude that members tend to agree with the establishment of the subcommittee. Okay, so I will order that the subcommittee be established. The Secretariat will issue notice inviting members to join it. Okay, now for AOB, any members have any AOB? Mr. Kin-yuen. Chairman, I have submitted a paper to move a motion at this panel today. It involves our passage on November 12th, a motion moved by me. And I also held two public hearings in relation to that motion. That is to bring stability to secondary education system. We should immediately reduce class size to 30. And for school catering for the underprivileged, to reduce it to 25. This is a key issue. But on the night after the motion was approved, Secretary for Education Eddie Ng proposed to school associations that we should use the 311 or 211 model to reduce the class size. That is, after we approved the motion, in less than an hour, the Education Bureau proposed a totally different option without telling us beforehand. Up till now, there has not been any explanation to us from the Bureau. Yesterday, I received a new paper, but for a long time, I think the Bureau had not respected our views, had not given us any explanation. I don't know whether, what the Legislative did before in relation to a similar scenario like this. But, for the members of the general public, I think what the Education Bureau did was a disrespect to us. So I want to move a motion to condemn the act of the Education Bureau. I also want an apology and explanation from the Education Secretary. When do you have another AOB? Can you tell us? I want to mention that I find that for the matters arising, there is an item on post-secondary education. I want to point out that apart from inviting government officials to talk about this issue of post-secondary education, financing for self-financed institutions, I hope that at that meeting or closely following that meeting, can we hold a public hearing, not just to hear the official views? Yes, before you came in, I think Fernando Joe already suggested that we hold a public hearing. I promised that I would liaise with the Vice Chairman and any other members to find out a time slot for that. Yeah, that's my answer. As for Kin-yuen's AOB, firstly, the Education Bureau has already given us a letter. I think it was given to us yesterday. Well, it didn't give us an apology. I haven't read the letter carefully, but I think your motion has nothing to do with our agenda today, because we talk about the studying on the mainland and amendment to the Education Bill today. Therefore, I can't move a motion on your AOB today, but we will have more meetings from now on. I think when the items on the agenda of following meetings relate to your motion, that you can move that again, because your motion is unrelated to our agenda items today. Therefore, I can't accept your motion. Now it's also 10:30, so we need to adjourn the meeting. I'm afraid we don't have the quorum for discussing your motion. Chairman, can I propose that at our next meeting you will list the motion? Yeah, you can raise the motion again at our next meeting. I will reserve time for you to raise the motion. We did receive the Education Bureau's letter. Well, I'll deal with the letter. Since the Bureau has replied us, so to the panel, we will handle it. Well, it's a matter of how to deal with it and put it at which agenda. Okay, since time's up for the meeting, I'll declare that meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.